Beneath miles of frozen wasteland lies a secret older than time itself. A team of explorers ventures into the heart of an icy alien planet, searching for answers. What they find will change everything. Ancient beings, perfectly preserved, begin to stir from their frozen slumber. As the ice cracks and the first light touches their alien forms, humanity faces a choice: embrace the unknown or face extinction. But are these ancient titans saviors or destroyers? The countdown begins. Will you survive long enough to uncover the truth? Subscribe now to witness the awakening that will alter the fate of the universe forever. The expedition began as a routine mission, though nothing about this world could ever be considered ordinary. The planet, designated X for 27, was a barren expanse of endless ice and biting winds, its surface untouched by sunlight for millennia. Humanity's most advanced probes had detected anomalies beneath the frost, a network of structures too symmetrical to be natural. For years, scientists debated their origin, but it wasn't until recently that technology allowed a manned mission to venture so far into the cosmos. The crew consisted of 12 individuals, each handpicked for their expertise. They were archaeologists, engineers, biologists, and linguists, united by one goal: to uncover the secrets hidden below the ice. Their ship, the Aurora Dash, descended through the thick atmosphere, buffeted by violent storms. From above, the planet appeared lifeless, a monochrome canvas of white and gray. Yet, as they landed near the largest anomaly, a massive spire jutting out like a broken tooth, they couldn't shake the feeling that something watched them from the shadows. Drilling commenced immediately, the hum of machinery cutting through the silence. The ice resisted at first, centuries of compression making it nearly impenetrable. But as layers peeled away, the true scale of what lay beneath became apparent. Massive geometric shapes emerged, too precise to have formed naturally. The excitement among the crew grew palpable, tempered only by the oppressive cold and the creeping unease that came with venturing into the unknown. Day turned to night, or what passed for night on this dimly lit world, as the digging continued. It was during the third rotation that they broke through. Beneath the ice lay not just ruins, but bodies. Dozens of them, encased in translucent amber-like material. They were unlike anything anyone had seen before: tall, slender creatures with elongated limbs and delicate, almost insectoid features. Their skin shimmered faintly, even after being frozen for eons. Each body was arranged in perfect symmetry around a central chamber, as if placed there deliberately. At first, the discovery seemed miraculous. These beings could hold the key to understanding the universe's greatest mysteries. But as the crew examined the site more closely, subtle signs suggested something unsettling. Several of the pods showed faint fractures, as if disturbed recently. And then there were the markings, glyphs carved into the walls, pulsating faintly with an inner light. No one dared to admit it aloud, but the thought lingered in everyone's mind. What if they weren't alone? As days stretched into weeks, the crew established a base camp within the newly uncovered structure. Portable heaters kept the biting chill at bay, while generators powered scanning equipment designed to analyze every inch of the alien remains. The initial excitement gave way to meticulous work, cataloging details and running tests. Every piece of data hinted at a civilization far older and more advanced than humanity's own. Yet, amidst the scientific rigor, whispers of unease spread among the team. Strange occurrences plagued their efforts. Instruments malfunctioned without explanation, readings fluctuated wildly, and several crew members reported hearing faint noises echoing through the corridors. At first, these incidents were dismissed as stress-induced hallucinations or equipment errors. But when one of the pods cracked open overnight, releasing a cloud of iridescent vapor, skepticism gave way to fear. The vapor dissipated quickly, leaving no trace behind. However, the pod's occupant had shifted slightly, as if stirred by some unseen force. Panic rippled through the group, though outwardly, they maintained composure. The lead scientist insisted on continuing the study, arguing that such phenomena warranted further investigation rather than retreat. Deep down, however, even he harbored doubts. It was during this tense period that another breakthrough occurred. One of the linguists deciphered part of the glowing glyphs adorning the walls. The translation was fragmented, but clear enough to send shivers down everyone's spines. The text spoke of guardians, beings tasked with protecting something of immense power. It also mentioned cycles of sleep and awakening, triggered by specific environmental conditions. The implications were staggering. Were these creatures merely relics of a dead civilization, or were they still alive, waiting for the right moment to rise again? Despite mounting evidence pointing toward the latter possibility, the crew pressed on. They reasoned that abandoning the mission now would leave countless questions unanswered. Besides, the allure of knowledge proved too strong to resist. Little did they know, their actions were already setting irreversible events into motion. The temperature inside the chamber dropped suddenly, despite the heaters working overtime. Frost crept along the walls, forming intricate patterns eerily similar to the glyphs surrounding the pods. Sensors recorded unusual energy spikes emanating from the central dais where the largest pod rested. Its occupant, taller and more ornate than the others, seemed to radiate a faint glow. Efforts to contain the situation intensified. The engineers reinforced the barriers around the excavation site, while the biologists monitored the thawing process with increasing urgency. Samples taken from the vapor revealed traces of organic compounds unlike anything found on Earth. More alarmingly, the samples exhibited rudimentary self-replication, hinting at a form of artificial life. Meanwhile, the crew grappled with growing paranoia. Sleep became elusive, haunted by vivid dreams of towering figures moving silently through the ice. Conversations grew terse, trust eroded by unspoken fears. Even the most rational minds struggled to reconcile logic with the mounting strangeness. Was this place cursed, as some whispered late at night? Or was it simply a reminder of how small and insignificant humanity truly was? Then came the first sign of movement. A single finger twitched inside one of the smaller pods. The gesture was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable. Cameras captured it repeatedly, ruling out human error. Fear morphed into awe as realization dawned. These beings weren't dead. They were dormant, preserved in stasis for reasons beyond comprehension. Desperate to understand, the team doubled their efforts. Advanced imaging techniques revealed complex neural activity within the aliens' brains, suggesting consciousness, albeit at a vastly different level than humans. This revelation sparked heated debates. Some argued for immediate evacuation, citing the potential danger posed by awakening an unknown species. Others countered that fleeing would forfeit the chance to learn from beings who might possess knowledge capable of advancing humanity centuries forward. Caught between caution and curiosity, the crew made a fateful decision. They would attempt communication, using the decoded glyphs as a starting point. Unbeknownst to them, their actions resonated deeper than anticipated, triggering mechanisms embedded within the very fabric of the chamber itself. The awakening had begun. The chamber hummed with an energy that seemed to emanate from the very walls. The crew stood frozen, their breath visible in the frigid air as they watched the glyphs on the walls pulse faster, brighter. It was as if the structure itself were alive, responding to their presence, or perhaps to the awakening of its ancient inhabitants. The lead scientist ordered everyone to step back, but no one moved. They were transfixed by the sight of the largest pod, where faint cracks had begun to spread across its crystalline surface. Inside, the towering figure shifted again, this time more deliberately. A hand pressed against the inner wall of the pod, and a low, resonant vibration filled the chamber. It wasn't sound so much as it was a sensation, a pressure that reverberated through bones and minds alike. The crew staggered under its weight, clutching their heads as fragmented images flashed before their eyes. Vast landscapes of shimmering cities, alien skies painted in hues unknown to Earth, and armies marching beneath banners inscribed with the same glowing runes. When the vision faded, silence fell. The crew exchanged wary glances, unsure whether what they'd experienced was real or some collective hallucination brought on by exhaustion and fear. But the cracks in the pod told a different story. Whatever lay within was breaking free, and soon. As the days passed, the atmosphere grew heavier, charged with anticipation and dread. The crew worked tirelessly to document every detail, knowing full well that their findings could redefine humanity's place in the universe or seal its doom. Yet, progress was slow. Each new discovery raised more questions than answers. What were these beings? Why had they been placed here, buried beneath miles of ice? And most importantly, why were they waking now? One theory gained traction among the team. The aliens' awakening was tied to environmental changes. X-427's orbit had shifted slightly over millennia, bringing it closer to its dying red sun. The resulting increase in temperature, though minuscule, might have triggered mechanisms designed to revive the dormant guardians. If true, this meant humanity's arrival was merely coincidental, a catalyst rather than a cause. Still, Guilt gnawed at them. Had their drilling accelerated the process? Were they responsible for unleashing forces they couldn't hope to control? These thoughts haunted their dreams, blending with fragments of the visions they'd shared earlier. Nightmares became indistinguishable from reality, leaving many too exhausted to focus during waking hours. Amidst the chaos, one member of the crew, a linguist named Dr. Alaravas, made a breakthrough. By combining decoded glyphs with patterns observed in the neural activity of the awakening beings, she identified what appeared to be a form of language. It wasn't spoken or written in any conventional sense. Instead, it seemed to operate on principles of resonance and frequency. With trembling hands, she programmed the ship's AI to generate a sequence based on her findings. The result was a haunting melody, both beautiful and alien, that echoed through the chamber like a call to arms. The moment the melody played, the chamber reacted violently. Lights flickered, equipment short-circuited, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. For a terrifying instant, the crew thought the entire structure would collapse. Then, abruptly, everything stopped. Silence returned, deeper and more profound than before. In the center of the room, the largest pod shattered. Shards of translucent material rained down, revealing the being inside. It was taller than any human, its elongated limbs and angular features evoking both awe and terror. Its skin shimmered with iridescent hues, reflecting the dim light in ways that defied logic. Eyes, large, multifaceted, and devoid of pupils, opened slowly, scanning the room with an intelligence that felt almost predatory. No one dared to move. The creature stepped forward, its movements fluid yet deliberate. When it spoke, or rather, communicated, it did so not with words, but with sensations. Images flooded the crew's minds, memories of wars fought across stars, civilizations risen and fallen, and a singular purpose driving it all: guardianship, protection, sacrifice. It was then that the crew realized their mistake. These beings weren't relics of a lost age, they were sentinels, tasked with safeguarding something far greater than themselves. Something buried even deeper beneath the ice. The sentinel's gaze lingered on each member of the crew, weighing them, judging them. Though it made no overtly hostile moves, its presence alone sufficed to instill paralyzing fear. The air grew colder still, as if the entity's emergence drained warmth from the surrounding environment. Frost formed on exposed surfaces, spreading outward in intricate fractal patterns reminiscent of the glyphs adorning the walls. Dr. Voss, emboldened by desperation, took a cautious step forward. She extended a hand, palm open, a universal gesture of peace. The sentinel tilted its head, studying her with unnerving intensity. Then, without warning, it reached out, its long fingers brushing against hers. A surge of information coursed through her mind, overwhelming in its complexity. She collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath, as fragmented knowledge flooded her consciousness. When she finally regained her composure, she relayed what she'd learned. The Sentinels were created eons ago by a hyper-advanced civilization to protect a weapon of unimaginable power. This weapon, capable of reshaping entire galaxies, had been sealed away to prevent misuse. However, the civilization that forged it had vanished, leaving only the Guardians behind to ensure the weapon remained undisturbed. Humanity's arrival, combined with the warming planet, had disrupted the delicate balance. Now, the Sentinels were awakening. Not just this one, but others scattered across the globe. Their mission was clear: secure the weapon, eliminate any threats, and restore equilibrium. Panic rippled through the crew. If the Sentinel viewed them as a threat, there was little chance of survival. Weapons were useless against such advanced beings, and escape seemed impossible given the planet's harsh conditions. Yet, as the Sentinel continued to observe them, a glimmer of hope emerged. It didn't attack. Instead, it gestured toward the central dais, inviting them to follow. Reluctantly, the crew complied. Beneath the dais lay another layer of ice, thicker and denser than anything they'd encountered before. Embedded within it was a massive sphere, pulsating faintly with an inner light. The Sentinel placed a hand on the ice, and it began to melt at an astonishing rate. Steam hissed into the air as the sphere came fully into view, its surface etched with the same glowing runes seen throughout the chamber. Dr. Voss recognized the pattern immediately. It matched the sequence she'd generated earlier. Realization dawned. Her attempt at communication hadn't awakened the Sentinel. It had activated the weapon. Guilt weighed heavily on her shoulders, but there was no time for self-recrimination. The sentinel turned to face her, its expression unreadable. Then, with a single motion, it gestured for her to approach. As Dr. Voss stepped closer to the sphere, the sentinel emitted a series of low-frequency vibrations. These resonated through the chamber, causing the runes on the sphere to glow brighter. The crew watched in stunned silence as the sphere began to rotate, its movements precise and deliberate. Light spilled forth, bathing the room in an ethereal radiance. Suddenly, the sentinel froze. Its head snapped upward, as if sensing something beyond the chamber. A deep rumble shook the ground, followed by the unmistakable sound of cracking ice. More sentinels were emerging elsewhere on the planet, drawn to the activation of the weapon. Time was running out. The sentinel turned back to Dr. Voss, its message clear: choose. Either deactivate the weapon and risk leaving it vulnerable to future discovery, or allow it to remain active and face the consequences of its power. There was no middle ground. Tension mounted as the crew debated their options. Some argued for immediate deactivation, reasoning that the risks outweighed potential benefits. Others believed the weapon could serve as a deterrent against hostile extraterrestrial forces, provided humanity could learn to wield it responsibly. Dr. Voss found herself caught between two extremes, torn between duty and ambition. Finally, a decision was reached. Using data gathered from the Sentinel's earlier transmission, the team devised a plan to temporarily disable the weapon while preserving its core functionality. It was risky, but it offered a slim chance of averting disaster. Working together, they modified the equipment used to analyze the sphere's energy output. As they adjusted settings and rerouted power, the Sentinel maintained a vigilant watch, ensuring no mistakes were made. Despite their differences, human and alien operated in eerie harmony, united by a common goal. When the final adjustments were complete, Dr. Voss initiated the shutdown sequence. The sphere dimmed, its light fading until only faint traces remained. Relief washed over the crew, but it was short-lived. Outside, the rumbling grew louder, signaling the approach of additional sentinels. The sentinel ushered the crew toward an exit tunnel, urging them to leave quickly. It was clear that their presence was no longer welcome or safe. As they fled, the chamber behind them began to seal itself, walls closing in as the ice reformed. The sentinel lingered briefly, its gaze lingering on Dr. Voss before vanishing into the darkness. Above ground, the storm raged fiercer than ever. Visibility dropped to near zero as winds howled around them, carrying shards of ice that stung exposed skin. Navigating back to the Aurora proved challenging, but the crew pressed on, driven by sheer determination. Halfway there, they encountered signs of other sentinels converging on the site. Towering figures moved through the blizzard, their forms barely distinguishable against the whiteout. The crew ducked behind icy outcrops, holding their breath as the sentinels passed mere meters away. Reaching the ship felt like a miracle. Engines roared to life as the crew scrambled aboard, sealing the hatch just as the first sentinel arrived. Through the viewport, they watched as the beings surrounded the vessel, their glowing eyes fixed unwaveringly on the humans within. Takeoff was fraught with danger. Sentinels lashed out with tendrils of energy, attempting to disable the ship. Shields held, but only barely. Sparks flew as systems overloaded, forcing the crew to improvise repairs mid-flight. Once airborne, the crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, but it was premature. Scanners revealed multiple clusters of sentinels converging on their location, intent on intercepting them. Escape would require navigating treacherous terrain and outmaneuvering foes far superior in speed and agility. Against all odds, they succeeded. Dodging attacks and exploiting gaps in the Sentinels' formations, the Aurora broke free of the planet's gravity well. As they entered orbit, the crew looked back at X-27, now bathed in the crimson glow of its dying sun. The Sentinels stood watch below, silent sentinels guarding a secret too dangerous to entrust to lesser beings. Back aboard, the Aurora the crew processed what they'd witnessed. Data collected during their mission painted a picture of a civilization that had mastered technologies beyond human comprehension. Yet, it also highlighted the dangers of unchecked ambition. The weapon they deactivated represented both salvation and annihilation, a paradox encapsulated in cold, unyielding metal. Debates raged about whether to share their findings with Earth. On one hand, the knowledge could propel humanity centuries ahead. On the other, it could ignite conflicts that would make global wars seem trivial by comparison. Ultimately, consensus favored secrecy, at least until safeguards could be established. For Dr. Voss, the experience left lasting scars. She couldn't shake the feeling that they'd merely delayed the inevitable. Someday, someone else would stumble upon X for 27, or worse, the Sentinels would venture beyond their frozen prison. When that day came, humanity would need to be ready. Months later, reports trickled in from other exploratory missions. Strange signals emanated from distant star systems, bearing uncanny resemblance to the glyphs discovered on X for 27. Speculation mounted that the Sentinels' influence extended far beyond a single planet, that they were part of a galactic network spanning countless worlds. Efforts to decode these signals intensified, fueled by equal parts curiosity and fear. Meanwhile, advancements in quantum computing allowed researchers to simulate interactions with the weapon's energy matrix. Progress was slow, but each breakthrough brought humanity closer to understanding the true nature of the Sentinel's charge. Yet, unease lingered. Every simulation hinted at unforeseen variables, factors that defied conventional physics. Was the weapon truly a tool, or something more akin to a living entity? And if so, what drove it? Questions multiplied faster than answers, keeping scientists awake long into the night. In the end, the story of X for 27 served as a stark reminder of humanity's place in the cosmos. For all their achievements, humans remained infants compared to the ancient civilizations that had come before. The Sentinels were proof of that, a testament to what could be achieved when wisdom tempered ambition. As the Aurora returned home, the crew vowed to carry their experiences forward. They would advocate for caution, for humility in the face of the unknown. Whether humanity heeded their warnings remained to be seen. If you're eager to uncover more mysteries from the edge of the universe, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. New episodes drop weekly, bringing you closer to the frontier of science fiction and exploration. Join us as we delve deeper into tales of wonder, danger, and discovery, one thrilling adventure at a time.